My sister was the golden child, and my parents kicked me out for not giving her my $14K. But when I discovered her aunt and uncle already paid her rent, I exposed them, and now we both cut them off forever. I'm 18 years old, just graduated high school a few months ago, and honestly, I need to tell this story because I still can't believe how my own family betrayed me in the most twisted way possible. All of this happened like 6 months ago. But I swear some nights I wake up thinking about what my parents did, and it just doesn't make sense. You know? Well, I guess I should start from the beginning, so you understand the full context of why what happened was so incredibly unfair. I grew up in a small town where everyone knows everyone. You know, one of those places where if your neighbor sneezes across the street, you hear about it in 5 minutes. My family was always, let's say, normal. We had enough money. We never lacked anything important. My dad, James, worked at an accounting firm or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he did, but he made good money. My mom, Barbara, was a stay-at-home mom, one of those who organize all the school events and are always making sure the house is spotless. And then there was my older sister, Olivia, who's 4 years older than me, so she was like 22 when all this exploded. The relationship with my sister was always complicated, I guess. When we were kids, she bullied me constantly, like she'd hide my stuff, push me around, tell me I was stupid, things like that. My parents never did anything about it. They basically told me to stop complaining and that it was just sibling stuff. But the truth is, Olivia was always the favorite. I knew that from when I was really young. When she wanted something, my parents gave it to her. When I asked for something, it was like, oh well, we'll see. Or it's not necessary. You know what I mean? She got a brand new car when she turned 16. I had to save up and buy myself a used one when I was 17. She went to an expensive out-of-state university. They told me I'd probably have to go to the local community college to save money. That's how things were in my house. When I was 16, I got my teningpleshnated first job at an electronics store. Nothing fancy, like I was making $9 an hour. But from that moment, I decided I was going to save every penny I could because I already knew, that my parents weren't going to help me much with college. I worked every afternoon after school, every weekend. During the summer, I worked double shifts. My friends went out to parties, and I was there organizing shelves or helping old ladies pick out tablets for their grandkids. For 2.5 years, I saved like 80% of what I earned. I didn't go out much, didn't buy expensive things. Literally, my life was school, work, sleep, repeat. And by the time I graduated high school, I had saved up like $14,000. It's not a fortune, I know, but for me it was everything, you know? It was my ticket to get out of that town and do something with my life. Things started getting weird like a year before all this drama. My dad quit his job, which surprised all of us because he'd been there for like 15 years. He told us he was going to start his own business, something related to financial consulting for small businesses. My uncle Philip, my dad's older brother, invested money in the business. Philip was always the successful one in the family. He had his own construction company and was doing super well. He and his wife, Rebecca, never had kids, so I think they saw me and Olivia as their favorite nephew and niece or something like that. At first, everything seemed to be going well with my dad's business. He talked about clients and contracts and seemed excited. But then COVID came, and basically everything went to hell. His business had barely been running for like 6 months when the pandemic started, and suddenly, nobody wanted to hire consultants or whatever it was he offered. My parents started acting weird, like they'd be arguing in low voices, and when I'd enter the room, they'd immediately shut up. My mom started making comments about how we needed to be more careful with money, that it wasn't a good time for unnecessary expenses. I thought they were exaggerating a bit. I don't know. They never told me exactly how bad things were. Olivia, by that point, had already graduated from college like 2 months prior. She studied something related to marketing or communications. I never really paid much attention, honestly. She moved to an apartment in the city, like 2 hours away, because she got a job at an agency or something. My parents were super proud. Everything was Olivia this, Olivia that. Look how successful your sister is. I just nodded and tried to focus on finishing high school and my plans for college. So we get to 6 months ago, mid-June or so. I had just graduated, was working full-time at the store during the summer before starting college in August. One night I came home after a long shift, like it was around 9 at night, and I was exhausted. My parents were sitting in the living room. They looked serious, and my dad told me they needed to talk to me. Right. There, I knew something was wrong because they never asked to talk like that, unless there was a problem. I sat down and my dad started with this speech about family and how we all have to support each other in difficult times. I was just thinking like, where is this going? And then he dropped the bomb. They told me that Olivia was having trouble paying her rent this month, that her job wasn't paying her enough or something like that, and that she needed $1,200 to cover her rent or else she was going to get evicted. And then, literally without any kind of preamble, my dad told me, "We need you to give her the money from your savings to help your sister." I sat there for like 5 seconds processing what I had just heard. Seriously? They were asking me to give my sister the money I'd saved for 2.5 years, working like crazy? I asked my dad why they couldn't give her the money. And that's when my mom stepped in and basically admitted they didn't have any extra money because my dad's business was failing and they'd spent all their savings trying to keep it afloat. They said my Uncle Philip had already given them enough money and they couldn't ask him for more. And I was thinking, wait, so the solution is to take my money that I earned? I told them no. That money was for my college and I'd worked too hard to save it. My dad got furious, started yelling that I was selfish, that family supports each other, that Olivia is my sister, and how could I be so cruel as to leave her on the street? My mom started with the emotional manipulation, like crying and saying she was so disappointed in me that she raised a better son than this. And I tried to explain to them that it wasn't my responsibility, that Olivia is an adult with a job, and if she can't pay her rent, then maybe she needs to get a better job or move somewhere cheaper. But they didn't want to hear any of it. The argument got worse and worse. My dad told me that as long as I lived under his roof, I had to follow his rules, and I responded that, well, then I'd get the hell out of his house. I don't know where that courage came from, honestly, because at that moment, I was shaking with rage. My dad literally told me, "You have 10 minutes to pack your things and get out of my house. I don't want to see you again until you're ready to support this family." My mom was just standing there with her arms crossed like backing him up. I went upstairs to my room, threw all my clothes and important stuff into 2 suitcases and a backpack, and left that house without looking back. I don't even know if I said goodbye to them. I think I just left. I drove to my Uncle Philip's house because I didn't know where else to go. It was like 11 at night by then. I knocked on the door, and when my uncle opened it and saw me standing there with all my stuff, I knew he knew something terrible had happened. He and his wife, Rebecca, let me in, made me something to eat, even though I wasn't hungry, and basically told me I could stay with them as long as I needed. I told them the whole story, well, my version of the story, and my uncle looked furious. Rebecca, who was always like a second mom to me, hugged me and told me I'd done the right thing by not giving in. That night was horrible. I was in my uncle's guest room, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, thinking about how my life had become a disaster in a matter of hours. The next few days were strange. My parents sent me messages saying I was still in time to do the right thing, that Olivia really needed the money, that I was destroying the family. I didn't respond. My uncle advised me not to do anything impulsive. But honestly, I was so angry, so betrayed, that I needed to vent somehow. And this is where I probably made a mistake. Or maybe not. I'm still not sure. Like a week after moving in with my uncle, I made a long post on Facebook telling the whole situation. And when I say long, I mean it was like a novel. I explained how I'd worked, since I was 16, how I saved every penny, how my parents always favored Olivia, and how now they'd kicked me out of the house for not giving my college money to my sister for her rent. I didn't mention my parents by name, but basically everyone in our town knew who I was and who my parents were, so it was obvious who I was talking about. I ended the post saying something like, "Family is more than blood, family is respect and mutual support, and clearly that doesn't exist in my house." The post exploded. And when I say exploded, I mean in like 2 hours I had like 300 reactions and 150 comments. Relatives I didn't even know I had were sending me messages of support. My parents' friends commenting that they were disappointed in them. Some of my cousins saying they always knew my parents favored Olivia, It was total madness. And obviously my parents saw it because like 3 hours after posting it, my dad called me screaming. Literally screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. He told me I was a piece of shit for airing our dirty laundry in public, that I was humiliating them in front of the whole community, to delete that post immediately, or he'd never speak to me again. My mom sent me like 20 text messages, some crying, others angry, basically telling me the same thing. But what really struck me was that after all that initial wave of support, things started to change. Like some relatives who at first supported me started sending private messages saying maybe I'd been too harsh, that I should give my parents another chance, that family should stay together no matter what. And I realized all that support was superficial, you know? Like it was okay for them to comment saying I was right, but when it came time to actually do something or stand firm, everyone backed off. My Uncle Philip told me I should probably delete the post because it was causing more drama than necessary. And even though I didn't want to admit he was right, I knew he had a point. So, like 2 days later, I deleted it, but the damage was already done. My parents were furious with me. Half the town had read my story, and I felt empty. About a month passed since I moved in with my uncle, and things were weird but manageable. I kept working, avoided seeing my parents in town as much as I could, and basically was counting down the days until I left for college in August. One afternoon, Rebecca called me to come down to the living room because she needed to talk to me. I went down and she and my Uncle Philip were sitting there with serious faces, and honestly I thought they were going to tell me I couldn't stay with them anymore or something. But what they told me was 1,000 times more shocking. Rebecca told me she had to tell me something about Olivia, and that I shouldn't have found out this way, but she felt I deserved to know the truth. And then she dropped this on me, that they had already given Olivia money for her rent like a month and a half ago, even before all this drama started. Turns out Olivia had asked them for help directly, and my uncle and aunt gave her the $1,200 she needed. So when my parents asked me to give Olivia the money, she already had her rent covered thanks to Philip and Rebecca. I sat there unable to process what I was hearing. What? Did my parents know Olivia already had the money? I asked Rebecca if my parents knew they had given Olivia money, and she said yes, that she'd mentioned to my parents they'd help Olivia so they wouldn't worry. So basically my parents lied to me, kicked me out of the house, destroyed our relationship, all for money they didn't even need. Rebecca explained that apparently my parents wanted my money to cover their own debts from the failed business and used Olivia as an excuse. I literally don't have words to describe how I felt in that moment. Betrayed doesn't even begin to cover the magnitude of what I felt. Philip told me he was so sorry, that he should have told me earlier, but didn't want to add fuel to the fire. Rebecca was almost crying, telling me they'd discussed whether to tell me or not, but finally decided I deserved to know the truth. And then Rebecca told me something else, that she'd also been giving Olivia money throughout college, like $300 or $400 a month, because Olivia complained that my parents didn't give her enough money for expenses. So while my parents were telling me they didn't have money to help me with college, Rebecca was subsidizing Olivia's college life without anyone knowing. Everything was a lie. Literally everything. That night I called Olivia. I hadn't talked to her in like 2 months, since before all the drama. When she answered, her tone was cold. Like, "Hi Caleb, what do you want?" And I asked her directly if she knew that Uncle Philip and Rebecca had given her money for her rent. There was a long silence, and then she said yes, that they'd helped her. I asked her if she knew our parents had asked me to give her money for her rent after she already had it covered. Another silence, and then Olivia said, "Wait, what? I didn't know anything about that." So I told her the whole story, what our parents had told me, how they kicked me out of the house, everything. And Olivia started to sound genuinely confused and even upset. She told me our parents had told her I'd left the house because I wanted to be independent and that I was being a rebel for no reason. That they'd told her I was making up stories about them on social media to make them look bad. Basically, our parents lied to both of us, turned us against each other, and neither of us knew the complete truth. We talked for like 2 hours that night, Olivia and I. It was the longest and most honest conversation we'd probably had in our entire lives. She told me things about her childhood, about how our parents pressured her to be perfect to maintain this image of the successful daughter. She told me the bullying she did to me when we were kids was because I was jealous that I seemed to have less pressure, fewer expectations. And she admitted that yes, our parents always favored her materially, but that came with an emotional price I never saw. I don't justify what she did to me, but at least I understood a bit more where it came from. I asked her why she never defended me when our parents kicked me out, and she said she honestly didn't know they'd kicked me out, that our parents told her I had chosen to leave. And when she saw my Facebook post, which she did see before I deleted it, our parents told her I was exaggerating everything, that it was teenage drama, and she believed them because, well, they'd always given her reasons to believe them before. It was a difficult but necessary conversation, and in the end we decided we were going to try to rebuild our relationship as siblings because we realized the only real villains in this story were our parents. The next few weeks were surreal. Olivia confronted our parents about the lies, and apparently there was a huge fight. She told them she couldn't believe they'd manipulated both of us like that. And my parents basically got defensive, saying everything they'd done was for the good of the family, that they were desperate, that we had no idea of the stress they were under. But Olivia didn't let herself be manipulated this time and told them what they did was unforgivable. I, meanwhile, was preparing to leave for college out of state. I got a good financial aid package, plus what I had saved, so I could afford it. My parents tried to contact me a couple of times, messages saying we needed to talk, that it had all been a misunderstanding, but I blocked them. I wasn't ready to hear their excuses, and honestly, I don't know if I ever will be. Fast forward to now, I've been at college for like 2 months and things are okay. I guess. It's weird being so far from home, or well, what used to be my home. Olivia and I talk like twice a week. We're working on our relationship and, honestly, it feels good to have a real sister for the first time in my life. She ended up cutting off contact with our parents too. Not completely, but basically only talks to them when it's absolutely necessary. My parents blocked me on all social media after I didn't respond to their last messages. So I guess we're officially at a point of no return. Last week, my roommate asked me why I never talk about my parents, and I didn't know what to answer. I just told him we don't have contact, and he didn't ask more. Sometimes I think about everything that happened, and I still can't believe my own parents were capable of manipulating and lying to me that way. Other times I think maybe I should have handled things differently, that maybe the Facebook post was too much, that maybe I could have resolved everything in a more mature way. But then I remember I had just turned 18, and they were the adults who were supposed to protect me, not use me. My Uncle Philip called me a few days ago to see how everything was going. He told me he was proud of me for standing firm and not letting my parents manipulate me. Rebecca sent me a package with homemade cookies and a note that said they missed me. It's weird because technically I lost my parents, but I feel like I gained my aunt and uncle in a deeper way, you know? And I gained my sister too. Or gained her for the first time, really. I don't know what's going to happen in the future with my parents. Maybe someday we'll reconcile. Maybe not. For now, I'm focused on school, on building my own life away from all that drama. Sometimes it makes me sad to think about how my family disintegrated this way. But then I remember that a real family doesn't manipulate and lie to you like that. A real family doesn't throw you out on the street for not giving them your savings. A real family supports you unconditionally. Yesterday, Olivia sent me a message saying she was thinking about visiting me next month. She'd never visited me before, never showed interest in my life that way. And I told her yes, that I'd love for her to come. It's funny how something so horrible had to happen for her and me to finally find each other as real siblings. I don't justify everything that happened, but I guess at least something good came out of this whole mess, and that's enough for now, I guess.